in terms of just, how intimate and how in depth we get, with clients and their overall financial plan. Like I said, we're a very high touch firm. We make sure that, we're always doing right by the client, putting the client's best interests, ahead of our own. We make sure that, we're doing anything and everything to keep that client situations to their best possible outcome, and constantly, being in touch with the clients, meeting with clients numerous times a year just to make sure that their plan is still on tap.
Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, the go-to podcast for financial advisors aiming to grow their assets under management, stand out in a crowded market, and retain assets nearly forever. Are you advising high net worth clients who own appreciated capital assets? Do you want to help them sell without losing a quarter, a third, or even more of their hard-earned profits to capital gains taxes? Then this podcast is tailored for you. Each episode brings you the latest strategies and expert advice from leading financial advisors, seasoned attorneys, and experienced CPAs. Learn how to maximize your clients' wealth, minimize their taxes, and supercharge your advisory practice with actionable insights. Join us on Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where you'll gain the knowledge and tools to set yourself apart and achieve unparalleled success in wealth management. Subscribe now and empower your practice for a brighter, more prosperous future. Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets. I'm your host, Roger Silk, and our guest today is Will Rodriguez. Will is a wealth management professional. He's been in business for about a decade or more. He started in 2012 with, who'd you start with, Will?
Started with Merrill Lynch and then transitioned over to Morgan Stanley.
We'll get to that. And then, so he joined Briggs in 2019, and he helps clients achieve their financial goals. Will is a graduate of the University of Hartford, and he has a degree in finance and economics. He's also an MBA and a certified financial planner. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Will.
Thank you for having me, Roger.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. I gave a high level view, but overall, I've been in the industry for about 15 years, going back from undergrad and then coming back into the industry after grad school. And that's kind of like where my career started to really take off. I started with Merrill Lynch and then transitioned over to Morgan Stanley, got into their wealth advisory program. That was a 3-year program that I did really well with. This is with Morgan Stanley coming out with their focus on financial planning. That's where I was working under about 35, 40 financial advisors running financial plans for them. So that's kind of how I got my forte into financial planning. From Morgan Stanley, I transitioned over to the bank channel, spent some time there. And then I also went over to a hybrid broker-dealer, LPL Financial and RIA. An opportunity came up with the firm where I'm at now, and I've been at Briggs Wealth Management now for over 5 years, and things have been great. We have, small practice here, about a team of 5. We manage a little north of 260 million in assets. In total, it's about 130 clients if you include the children of the clients. So it's a pretty niche practice focused on tax planning and wealth management, all integrated under one roof. And it's one of the best places that I've been so far, where we're integrating both of those worlds of taxes and wealth planning. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It was just something that I felt I needed to focus on in my career to pick up some tax knowledge, and it certainly has helped tremendously. And it just gives you a different perspective when you're looking at things for clients and helping them, achieve their goals.
And what is your role now at Briggs?
Yep. So I'm a senior financial planner. I assist about 75 clients or so in their financial planning endeavors. So we work in a team approach. It's a team of 5 of us, including the principal, Mark Briggs, who's also been a great coach and mentor.
How involved is Mark still in the business?
I'd say he's still very much involved. He loves what he does, and that it transitioned over to the team pretty well. So it feels like a second home, when we're here. We have a great chemistry. We service our clients, in a unique high touch way.
What would you describe your ideal client or the firm's ideal client? How would you describe that
Yeah. So
client?
our ideal client is a, pre-retiree, retiree, um, investable assets of, north of 1 million to 2 million starting out. And, they're dealing with, complex situations, whether if it's estate planning or, you know, tax planning, and then, integrating all this on, to their, under their roof to make sure that they're achieving their goals. So everything that we're doing at any component in the, wealth planning, financial planning spectrum, it's touching all clients and all facets.
Can you give us an idea of what kind of tax planning situations you typically run into?
Yes, absolutely. So depending on, a client's tax bracket, they could be transitioning out of work, going into that retirement mode. And let's say they haven't started Social Security yet and they do have, assets to, to handle their, yearly spending. We incorporate some Roth conversion strategies where we're maxing out certain tax brackets. And then, just utilizing certain buckets, whether if it's charitable contributions for the clients that are charitably inclined, take advantage of that. And then it gives them an opportunity to do future planning with that charitable donor fund. And so it's very, the tax planning piece of it, I would say it's pretty heavy. We actually do tax returns for our clients. So it kind of goes hand in hand, and we can, see at any point in time, we can pick up their, what their estimated tax is for that current year, and, make the best decisions for them as possible.
What does say the top quartile or top 20% of the client base look like?
So I would say, assets are, 3 to 10 million, in terms of, client assets.
Would that be net worth, or that's
Retired.
AUM that you guys have?
What's that?
Would that be net worth, or is that investable assets that you guys have?
Investable assets. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And I would say they're retired, either coming out of retirement just or been in retirement for a few years. Their kids are obviously grown and out doing their thing, and they're doing some, gifting to move assets from their name to their kids' names. And then, ones that need, estate planning. So we get very involved with their estate plans when they're working with their attorneys. We like to kind of sit on the same side as the table with the client, making sure that their estate plan speaks to their financial plan and vice versa.
What would be an example, obviously without any client names or anything, but give of an interesting kind of estate plan that you guys were working on recently?
Yeah, so I would say, they're all unique in some aspect. We've worked with a number of clients that they're setting up trusts and titling certain businesses to the trust for tax reporting purposes. That way there's no estate that you have to set up if they're keeping a business titled in their name out of state. Things like that we've continuously run into with clients that have larger estates and complicated situations.
Do many of your clients own businesses?
Not many. Most of them, it's mostly, either like maybe rental property that's outside of the state. I would say see more or less of. There's a few clients that have businesses. Um,
Uh, do you ever work with clients on the sale of a business?
to a certain extent, right? We want to be able to make sure that, we're involved with how the deal is structured and what the tax implication is going to be. And if there's anything that we can recommend that's in the client's best interest, then we'll certainly be very much involved and be a key player on that team during that transition.
Uh-huh. But you'd say real estate is more common. So somebody has real estate and they've owned it for a while. People don't want to be involved anymore in the management, so they want to sell. I'm wondering if you guys see that, and if so, what do you do with them?
Yeah, more or less, certainly the ones that are older that don't want to deal with the property management of it. And now is probably the perfect time for them to, exit that asset. And there's been situations where, maybe they've owned it with, another family member that's older, and they're trying to transition those assets, out of, a client's name into 100% into their name. So we've seen situations like that, doing some installment sales to, pay back, the parent or something. So,
Uh-huh. But mostly keeping it in the family.
right. Yeah, at least until it's time to unload, right?
Yeah. What's the age range of your clients?
Say the youngest is in their early early 30s, late 20s to 90.
So pretty much across the board.
Our average client is around 66, 68 years old.
What would you say makes Briggs unique or different? When you talk to a prospective client, what do you tell them that makes you different?
In terms of just how intimate and how in depth we get with clients and their overall financial plan. Like I said, we're a very high touch firm. We make sure that, we're always doing right by the client, putting the client's best interests, ahead of our own. We make sure that, we're doing anything and everything to keep that client's situations to their best possible outcome, and constantly, being in touch with the clients, meeting with clients numerous times a year just to make sure that their plan is still intact.
Uh-huh. Um, if you have somebody, for example, who's selling a piece of real estate, how would you guys be involved?
But just more so making sure that, the titling is appropriately, how is, the tax implication, making sure that they're doing the right thing and following the right steps and working with the right people to make sure that they can achieve that goal.
In a year, for example, how often would a client sell a piece of real estate for a big?
Maybe once or twice.
Uh, and the same thing with businesses, or less often with businesses?
I would say businesses are a little less, maybe one every other year or something like that. And we don't
Uh,
have any clients with a lot of businesses. It's mostly just individuals and families. But for the ones that do have businesses, we've been involved in some of those exit strategies.
right. What about the approach to investing the cash? Do you guys have any particular approach that you use to investing?
I mean, we use a mixture of, passive and active management. Each client has a customized portfolio. There's no models or anything that we follow. It's all custom, built portfolios. We mix all their assets together kind of under one roof. That way, there's just some flexibility depending on the types of account that they own. But overall, it's a mixture of passive and active management strategies.
What asset classes do you include typically for a client?
Large cap, small, mid, international, some emerging markets, some real estate index holdings, some balance funds to mix things up a little bit, and then fixed income. Whether if we're holding individual treasuries, some bond funds, CDs, or even fixed annuities to lock in that stable yield. And then, a minimum on the alternative side. We don't do a heavy, alternative investing, but it's mostly whatever we believe in. That's the strategies we'll continue to follow and use.
Do you tend to buy for clients individual companies, or do you use funds, or how does that work?
It's mostly on the equity side. It's mostly either an active management strategy or if it's indices, ETFs.
And the active management, is that you guys making those selections, or is that you?
Yes. Yeah, we choose the managers, which fits best in what client situation.
Your degree in finance and economics, have you found that to be helpful or not particularly helpful?
I certainly have, because it kind of gives you a high level view in terms of how the finance world is structured. For anyone studying finance, there's a couple avenues that they can go down, but you have to go down that path of self-discovery, find out what about finance makes you tick, and then you can go down that route.
Uh-huh. Other than you mentioned there's 5 people in the firm. There's Mark. Mark is the founder. I guess his name is on the firm. And then who else is there?
We have another associate in Austin, who is Mark's son, and then we also have 2 other associates, Katie and Lori, who help out on the uh, planning and admin side of things.
Uh-huh. And so you, Mark, and what's Mark's son's name?
Austin.
So the 3 of you would a client typically engage with all 3 of you, or are you guys assigned to clients, or how does it work?
But the way that things are set up now, it's kind of divvied up between a portion with me, a portion with Austin, and And then Mark's involved with every aspect of every client. So we're constantly having strategy sessions, before and after meetings, and
And you said you have about 120 family relationships,
about 130 clients.
130, and you're reviewing them all quarterly?
Well, right. Well, there's a couple of things. When we do our per quarter and performance reporting, we do look at each individual client's portfolio. We also are reviewing those portfolios prior to meetings with clients, whether it's quarterly, semi-annual, or once a year. But we are constantly looking at clients' portfolios. A lot of clients have similar holdings, but different allocations. So we know what we own in a sense.
You discuss at a quarterly meeting, will you be discussing individual names with clients?
Absolutely. Whether if it's a quarter end or if it's in a client meeting, we're reviewing their portfolio and making any, allocation changes or, targets or even, position changes.
Do you know what the firm's biggest holding is right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say total stock market.
Oh, and that would
You have
be,
to confirm that answer, Roger.
yeah. I mean, I was just wondering how you guys approach it. So basically, you're not like, you're not really stock pickers.
No.
Yeah, okay. Do you have any idea how the typical person weights between equities and fixed income?
I would say the bulk of, the portfolios are 50-50.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And is that driven by the clients or by you guys?
Driven by the client, the client's age, risk tolerance, time horizon. In some cases, clients, don't really need the income. So it's all about capital preservation.
Uh, so what fraction of your clients would you say don't actually need the income?
I would say I'm just throwing out a number, maybe 30-40%. Others do rely on, the annual income.
Uh-huh. For the folks who don't need it, is it because they're still working or they have other sources of income, or how does that work?
Other sources of income, whether if it's Social Security, pension income, rental
Uh-huh.
income, things like that.
So they're just basically building their assets for their heirs?
And we're just building strategies around that to make sure that we're achieving that goal of preserving their wealth, but still having some growth component to it. We're not just sitting in cash per se. It's more so it's fully invested.
Well, how would you define success?
That's a great question, Roger. It means success means a lot of things to, a lot of people, right? I find success to be, you achieve your goals and you're constantly moving the goalposts for yourself, making and hitting those milestones that you set to achieve, whether if they're, qualitative or quantitative.
Is that a discussion that you typically have with your clients so that you make sure that you understand what their goals are?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When
Uh-huh.
we review with our clients, we always make sure we start the meeting off with, have there been any changes in their life? Is there anything that they want to discuss before we even get into anything, just to make sure that that's put on the table and we can address it and we're working cohesively to that partnership to achieve that goal.
Uh-huh. Okay. Um, is there anything that you wanted to share that we haven't talked about yet?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with all your success, what do you find is your biggest challenge at the moment?
Time. Managing time. I have a growing family and things are demanding. So it's just managing time, making sure that we can be in control of that, right? It's
Hmm.
one thing that, runs out, you know.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Will, where can our audience go to learn more about you?
I mean, they can find me on the website, briggswealthmanagement.com. I am on LinkedIn, William N. Rodriguez. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, so if you probably are not the only William Rodriguez on LinkedIn, probably not. What did you say the middle initial was?
N.
N. Okay. Can I ask you your middle name?
Yeah, it's Naldo, Naldo, kind of like
Okay.
Ronaldo.
Okay. There are probably not very many William Naldo
Definitely
Rodriguez
not.
on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm the one probably.
And the website again, please.
BriggsWealthManagement.com.
All righty. Thank you so much, Will. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Roger.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Sterling Insights. Stand out and supercharge your assets, where we provide the info you need from successful leading financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs. Your hosts, Roger and Catherine Silk, invite you to learn more about Sterling Foundation Management by visiting sterlingfoundations.com.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.